people of the internet, and welcome to my mirror, which I obviously need for today's video. But first of all, it is day 14. That's not 14 anyway. Of Red Instead Autism Acceptance Month, and all those things, also called April. And what I have chosen for today's topic is, hairstyles, basically, in the terms of things where you don't need to cut your hair for. Because having long hair can sometimes with autism conflict a little bit, because it can be very annoying, because it's long and you somehow have to manage it most of the time. And obviously I can only give tips for my sort of hair or hair similar to that, because how would I know about other? So if you want to have any suggestions for hair that is very, very different from mine or not, please do leave all of that down in the comments, so hopefully other people can find advice there as well. Yeah. And so I've decided for this video I'm mainly going to focus on sort of, tricks, hacks, I guess, for what I've called sensory avoiders, so things that sort of reduce the sensory input coming from your hair. But I could also make a version for the opposite, if anyone wants to hear about that. I'm not even sure if anyone wants to hear about this, but I'm making it anyway because I could have used this. So yeah, I have sort of 3 main points with a few subpoints, so let's get through that. And also I'm throwing down things, but more importantly I need to brush my hair first. Also, large brushes are pretty helpful. Yeah, and sort of, I don't know, I didn't plan giving tips on this, but I don't know, maybe it's helpful, maybe not. For actually brushing the hair, I find it the most comfortable if I'll take the hair and sort of hold it and then brush this part, or even brush it against something. I usually brush it against my arm or some other part of my body, because that reduces the pull of the hair on anything on the hair roots. Okay, and I know that some people put some sort of detangler, whatever stuff in their hair to brush it. I don't do that because I just really dislike having anything at all in my hair, which is also why I stopped having short hair, because short hair, if you don't want to look like a 4th grader, then you have to put stuff in it, and ew. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I have long hair. I'm not a particular fan of long hair, and I have absolutely no emotional attachment to my hair, but so I think what most people will first of all be familiar with in terms of hairstyles is just simply tying it back like this. The problem with that is that often, at least for me, that pulls quite a lot on the back hairs here, and sometimes also on specific sections on the front, depending on how well you do it. But what sort of helps for me with that is actually using a pretty, instead of like one of these tiny little, what are these called in English? I have no idea. Hair tie? Maybe. I use like larger ones or even larger ones. These can be a bit difficult to find. These usually, I've seen these a lot around in any sort of store that sells things for hair. These are a little bit difficult. Usually farmers markets for some reason. If there's like people selling crafts and stuff as well, usually you can find things like this. And the good thing is if you have a bit of sewing experience, you can exchange the elastic bands in these ones because you can, well, they have seams that you can repair, so you can repair them, which is good. Anyway, so having these for if you're just tying them back, a larger one like this is usually enough. You don't need to go completely overboard. Yeah, so pretty basic. And then what I actually like to do, because also usually after having that a while, the hair sort of starts to be back here, and I really dislike having it there because it's ew. It's just not comfortable. So of course, again, pretty basic. I'm going to use the orange one now. I think you might also be able to see this a little bit better. And then I just realized I have my microphone on the same side. Oh. Okay, now, so my solution, the simplest solution to that would be to either pull the hair entirely through once, and then on the second time round, don't pull it all the way. Which can, if your hair is short, that's usually okay. If it's a bit longer, it can leave you with a weird kind of thingy here. Or doing a sort of even more advanced, well, it's not really advanced, but anyway, thing of twisting it first. Oops. Twisting it around, I just sort of twist it around my, what is that finger? This finger. And then letting it go in a sort of spiral, and then putting the hairband around as many times as you can. That tends to last, well, a bit longer. Nothing really lasts a long time with my hair. But that's sort of okay. But that can still, I can feel that right now. Usually, if I'm not already hypersensitive, I'm okay with this. But if I'm already, for whatever reason, a bit like hypersensitive to any sort of stuff, again, with the large hairbands, not the small ones, of course. If I'm already a bit sort of hypersensitive, this isn't really an option. And it also depends a bit on what you're hypersensitive to, what then sort of is the next best way to go. Oh, and I've also, before I forget that, I've also heard people of doing, before we leave the normal ponytail, whatever it's called, things. I know a lot of people use those like plastic wave bands that have like a lot of spiral things, which are apparently better for hair pulling. First of all, I'm not entirely sure that kind of plastic would even last at all on my hair. And second of all, I don't like plastic, so no. But if anyone has experience with this, again, you're welcome to contribute your experience. So then the next one, well, there's two main things for me that I can sort of react but hypersensitive to. And one, as I said, was having the hair in the back here, and the other one is having it in my face. Which sometimes, I don't know, for some reason, I'm just extremely annoyed by that. And so then my solution to that looks a bit complicated, but I have a lot of experience with it. So my solution to that is actually braiding. And that is not just like one in the back, because anything you do in the back is going to leave out some hairs in the front, which just won't want to stay that way. So you need to do something with the front first. And what I think generally is the easiest one to do, oh, I forgot the hair ties for this. I'll explain it with the ones I have. What I do is I braid it entirely with this sort of like braid that continually uses more hair, and I will be showing you what I mean right now. And I have a lot of practice with this, so that might not be something that everyone can do because of, fine, what's that called? Of how well they can tell their fingers what to do, and spatial awareness and all those things. So basically I'm just doing like a normal 3-strand braid thing, and every time I'm moving a braid one strand to another place, I take some of the hair that's still loose with it, which then creates a braid that sticks to your head, basically. And you could also only do that on one side or only every few ones if, doing that with everyone is a bit too advanced. But that sort of really keeps all the hair exactly where it's supposed to be. And usually if you do it well, it can even last a couple of days until you need to wash your hair, basically. So I sometimes do that, especially when it's really warm in summer, because it keeps all the hair completely away, which is very nice. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but this is how it looks like, and then I'd stop at the back and do the same thing from the other side. Or you could also, if it's just about the face and the back doesn't bother you, you could stop here. And then it's just completely away from the face, which is very nice. Now go away. And then the easier version to do that, if, again, you can't really, for whatever reason, don't want or can't do the other thing, it just needs a lot of hair ties, basically. And it consists of basically every few, I wanted to say meters, but that's clearly not the case. Also, this hair tie clearly doesn't work very well for that. Anyway, yeah. Well, you start with one, thingy like this, and pay attention that all the hair that you're pulling when you're doing the braid, pulling the hair more or less into the direction that it's going to go later on, which is this way, so that you don't end up pulling one part of the strand braid thing more than another. And then you do the same thing a little more back, and take everything from the section you've already made and all the other hair that's onto that part, and then you just tie it again like this. And then again, you do just that over and over again until you're at the back of the head. And that also works for hair that's a lot shorter. If it's kind of too short to braid still, this usually also works. Yeah. And it takes a bit of skill to not get any other hairs that aren't part of what you want to have in there. Yeah, and that can go all the way around again, and that doesn't require the braiding, but it still sits pretty tight, and it equalizes the pressure and the strands of hair that actually hold the weight more than if you were just make one here in the back, because that puts a lot more weight on a lot fewer strands than this. But sometimes I'm too sensitive for that as well. And once I can get these things off again, once I can get these out again, yes, removing them can be not quite so nice. If you really don't like removing hair ties, the solution isn't quite as environmentally friendly, but there's hair ties. There's plastic hair ties that you can just rip apart pretty easily, and those obviously then you can't use again, but you don't have to untie and get your hair all caught up in them, which can help for some people. But as I said again, then sometimes even that doesn't work, and then, well, I used to have a different solution to then that was only for the front hair, only to keep the hair away from the face. Now we move to the big accessories, which is one of these things. It's basically like a hairband, but has like a bigger part in front, I guess. And so you can, if you just put it around your neck like a scarf and get all the hair over it, and then pull it up from the front, and it keeps the hair from the face without much pressure to any specific parts of the hair. But again, then you still have the problem back here that the hair is still hanging loose, and it could still do this, which is not necessarily what you want. So then there's this. This is great. This is it's like these you see them in outdoor stores a lot. It's kind of a scarf, but it doesn't have an opening. It's just like a tube of a tube of material, fabric. That's what word I'm looking for. And you can, again, you use it basically the same as this. Ew, this is uncomfortable. You put it around your neck like a scarf, pull all the hair out of it, and then grab the top section of this thing and pull it up. Rearrange it, pull it entirely until, yeah, the bottom section is about there. And then the material should usually protect the neck part from the hair as well. And this keeps hair a lot more away than anything else I know. And this is what I do on, like, when I have the feeling like I can feel every single hair on my head, and it's really annoying. Then this is quite practical, and you could even, this works a little bit better with shorter hair actually. You could even still put this part in a sort of twisted bun kind of thing and secure it with a hairband. Again, with shorter hair, usually you can just do a normal knot with the material. Oh, I need a different hair tie. This isn't large enough. Like this. There we go. And for some reason, this thing actually reduces the pressure on the hair when you do a bun type thing. So there's no pressure on my hair, and there's no hair anywhere where I don't want it to be, which is great. And that's the sort of most sensory avoidant sort of thing that I can think of and that I know. But I quite like it. And of course you could also just wear a hat. Sometimes that's a solution as well. That can be a solution with a lot shorter hair if it's still annoying. Again, if you sort of put it on from the front so that all the hair is in the same direction, I like that best. Maybe some people just put it on exactly like this so that all the hair is in sort of that direction. You need to basically you need to play around a bit with in which direction do you want the hair to go. But yeah, that was that was all the suggestions that I had and all the tricks and hacks that I use, at least for the sensory avoidant part. And I hope that maybe somehow if you have found this interesting and helpful. And if you did, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe to this channel or give this video a like. I know, do my dance thing every time. And yeah, I will see you tomorrow. I think it got darker while I was filming this, 'cause